So UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya has recently gained himself, along with a female breast, an aura of invincibility in the UFC, and it feels like it's going to take something special to beat him inside of that octagon since his last win against Paulo Costa. Very impressively done, and he's looked very good recently in his UFC career. So who will beat Israel Adesanya, and who is the biggest threat to Israel Adesanya? Right now I'm focusing on the middleweight and light heavyweight division. I'm not going to get carried away at heavyweight and add some different names in there. We're going to stick to the middleweight and light heavyweight division for now, because I feel like those are more realistic in the short term, and of 2021 I feel like you'll only be going between those two divisions for now. But I'm going to be talking about the top 5 threats, listing them in order and giving you the reasons why they are in their position on the list. Starting with my number 5 threat for Israel Adesanya is Alexander Rakic in the light heavyweight division. It took me a while to come to terms with who I was going to put at number 5, Alexander Rakic or Jiri Prochazka. The main reason I put Alexander Rakic above Jiri Prochazka is because we've seen a new addition to Alexander Rakic's game, which is the grappling element of the game, which is very, very dangerous, and he showed that he could do that against a high-level jiu-jitsu guy in Anthony Smith. I know black belts get thrown around like fucking Haribos nowadays, but still, Anthony Smith is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, and for Thingy to do that to him, Alexander Rakic, I mean, that just shows me that he has another option to go against Israel Adesanya with, which is why I put him above Prochazka. It was between those two. I thought Prochazka also has a great chance on the feet to make something happen. Someone being Israel Adesanya's size and length, I feel, will give him huge problems on the feet, which is usually what happens to a lot of guys that are tall and rangy. As soon as they find a guy who does everything they do as well, it seems to be a little bit of a figuring out process. So I like the odds of Jiri Prochazka and Alexander Rakic, but I've gone with Rakic because he has a bit more of a grappling. He has evidence of grappling in his career that I can trust him to fall back on. So right now, Alexander Rakic is at the number 5 spot on my list. Very dangerous, coming off a big win against Anthony Smith, as I said. But before that, head kicked Jimmy Manor in the first round. He's got dangerous leg kicks. If I had to pick anyone, period, regardless of the list of who's the highest threat, if I had to pick anyone to potentially out-leg kick Israel Adesanya, it would most likely be Alexander Rakic, because he's got devastating leg kicks, and if he lands about 3 of them on you, you are done. Forget landing 20 of them against Paulo Costa and him just standing there. If Rakic gets off 2 or 3 good, strong leg kicks, it might be over. So that's interesting to me. Plus, he's a huge guy in the light heavyweight division, because the light heavyweight division right now is finally made up of light heavyweights, which is something that it wasn't under Jon Jones for the longest of times, but now it is. I'm looking forward to it. It's not happening, so I don't know why I'm looking forward to it, but hopefully it does happen in the future. Alexander Rakic takes the number 5 spot on my list. Moving up the list to the number 4 spot on the threats to Israel Adesanya, Yoel Romero. He will take on the number 4 spot on my list. I'm looking forward to it. It's not happening. Why am I looking forward to it? I'm looking forward to breaking down why he's number 4 on my list. Yoel Romero is dangerous to Israel Adesanya. You want to know mainly the reason why he's number 4 on this list? It's because he could have beaten Israel Adesanya and no one talks about it whatsoever. I saw that Israel Adesanya, they have a list of his former wins that he's put clinics on. He didn't put a clinic on Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero won rounds 1 and 5. And round 2 is up for debate, okay? And that's a fact. Israel Adesanya clearly won round 3 and 4. I gave round 2 to Israel Adesanya, but because he landed a few more strikes. But if you look at the big moments in round 2, Yoel Romero cracked him early and made him stagger a little bit. Then at the end of the round, Yoel Romero cracked him against the cage a couple of times and had Israel Adesanya staggering a little bit as well. What do you count more? Fewer of those big shots that stagger you, or more of the little shots that gently graze your leg with toes of a leg kick? That's the only argument. I thought Israel Adesanya landed a little bit too many shots in round 2 to give that round to Yoel, but I could actually see an argument for Yoel Romero, and I don't know why no one talks about this. Everyone's acting like Yoel Romero sat still. Yoel Romero didn't have a good game plan. Yoel Romero might have been thinking he was winning the whole time during rounds 3 and 4. He might have been thinking to himself, right, I've got rounds 1 and 2. I'm going to sit here and do nothing still. This game plan's working out fine. Then I'm going to go all out in round 5, which, by the way, is what he did in round 5 at the end. He actually started to let some shots go. I don't know how no one sees that, but Yoel Romero had a really close fight with Israel Adesanya. The only reason why he's not higher up on my list is because now he's going to be a little bit older. lowers his chances just that little bit more. Now Israel Adesanya's going to have a bit of a better read on him, but maybe Romero has a better read on Adesanya. He's number 4 on my list. Yoel Romero, I think he needs to win one more fight in the meantime. Perhaps a rematch with Paulo Costa would be amazing. That way, the winner of that, there could be a storyline that they both lost to Adesanya and they both had to face each other in rematches of a war that we'd all like to see again, I'm sure, to get back towards Israel Adesanya. That would be a good move. Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa rematch, maybe in the future, who knows. Moving on, Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya would be the top next threat. Jan Blachowicz is a dangerous man, and I don't understand why no one gives him respect. I picked Dominic Reyes as well, okay? We all kind of picked Dominic Reyes. Some people out there pick Jan Blachowicz, and well done. Give yourself a round of applause. You picked Jan Blachowicz to win, and you trusted in the legendary Polish power of Jan Blachowicz. But that legendary Polish power is there to take out Israel Adesanya, and DC acts like he could waltz back in and beat Jan Blachowicz for the belt because that's how he feels. DC, the last title defense you fucking had was Volkan Ozdemir. He's nowhere to be fucking seen right now in the light heavyweight rankings. The fact that you defended your belt against Ozdemir, period, is kind of showing as to where the light heavyweight division was back then as to where it is now. Jan Blachowicz, by the way, I just want to mention this again. Rakic beat Ozdemir 2-1. That was a robbery. But moving on, Jan Blachowicz is dangerous for Israel Adesanya. He's tough, he's durable, he's fought guys who have hit harder than Israel Adesanya. Maybe he hasn't fought guys with the speed of Adesanya or the precision, but still, he's a tough guy, he keeps his chin down, and he just goes for it, man. He throws long, rangy kicks, like he's not really a guy that holds back with his kicks. Like, he's got some range on them. He can use them to get people from far away. You saw that against Dominic Reyes, landing that body kick at the very end of his foot, right on the end, really lunging forward with it as well. I think he could match the distance and just be a bit of a kind of less aggressive but more dangerous Costa just by being naturally bigger. I also feel as though Adesanya immediately has a bit of a disadvantage moving up to light heavyweight anyway, just because people will be bigger than him. It's a 20-pound difference. Jan Blachowicz, in my opinion, would be a huge threat to Adesanya, which is why he sits at number 3. Pay that man some respect. I know 75% of us picked Dominic Reyes, but we were wrong. And the Polish power lived on, and he got the KO, and you've got to respect him. He's dangerous. And again, Dominic Reyes, a guy who went toe-for-toe with Jones on the feet and beat him 3-2, in my opinion. I can't ignore what Jan Blachowicz has done recently. Luke Rockhold KO, Jacare Souza beat him. Was it impressive? No, I don't know how it was a split decision. He clearly won every single round, in my opinion. Maybe he lost a round of that fight towards the end, but still, I thought that was a clear win for him. But it wasn't the most impressive fight, don't get me wrong. Also beat a good guy in Corey Anderson, one-punch KO. Like, you can't deny this, man. I think he's really good, and I think he would give Adesanya some problems. That's why he's at number 3 on my list. Moving on, Jack Hermansson sits at number 2. I just want to say before we even start this, the reason I've made this video mainly is because Chael Sonnen made a video not too long ago saying that Tyron Woodley and Chris Weidman were the main threats to Israel Adesanya. That is embarrassing from Chael Sonnen, and I hope he's joking, okay? Because those are not the threats to Israel Adesanya right now. There are real savages in the division, and it just kind of shows how little some of these MMA personalities and experts actually watch the sport to think that Chris Weidman and Tyron Woodley are the tests. Get out, mate. I know you're Uncle Chael, and you are my Uncle Chael, of course, and we all worship you as the greatest man and the largest arms in Wesleyan, Oregon, but still, it's embarrassing. You should be ashamed of yourself and go and think about things that you've done in a quiet, dark room, and don't come out until you admit that you're wrong. But moving on, Jack Hermansson sits at number 2 on my list of threats to Israel Adesanya. He's very, very dangerous. He can add the element of grappling in there, which no one else on the list can, including Yoel Romero, because he can't grapple. I said this time and time again, Yoel Romero cannot keep people down. One thing Jack Hermansson can do that no one else can do, in my opinion, is ragdoll Adesanya with a body lock, do whatever he wants with him, and then just take his back, choke him out, or put him in an arming guillotine and do him there, or roll for a leg and tie him up there. Those long legs of Adesanya could get caught in himself in an ankle. I don't even know, in a heel hook or something like that. He could just get completely mauled on the ground by Jack Hermansson, and it would be a problem. That's why I'm picking him. People don't give him enough credit, but he comes out switched on. He doesn't come out intimidated by people, okay? He's got quick, fast hands, and when he throws, he means it, and he's rangy when he throws that front kick. I think he could come out aggressive enough to maybe back Adesanya up a little bit, and if he doesn't get caught in the first round, which is the only problem in this fight that I have, I could see him taking down Adesanya for a spin and really doing some real damage to him. So if I was Adesanya right now in the middleweight division, the only guy I'm really fearing is Jack Hermansson. It ain't Chris fucking Weidman, okay? Because Jack Hermansson is Weidman 2.0 in that division, but with a bit of a chin still left, basically. Jack Hermansson is the number 2 threat to Israel Adesanya. Adesanya. That sounds like a type of person, but still, he's not an Adesanyan. Israel Adesanya, the number 1 threat for him in the middleweight division right now is Jack the Joker Hermansson. He's just the card out of the deck. He is. He's the wild card. He's the Joker card. He doesn't belong with the clubs and the queens and the diamonds and the shits and the red people, you know? And the hearts. That's the other one. He's a joker. He's out the deck. He's something random. You throw them away. You don't really pay attention to him, which is what Chael Sonnen did. And I think Jack Hermansson's a big threat to him. But the number 1 threat to Israel Adesanya, in my opinion, is Jon Jones. Jon Jones' first and only threat is USADA. And Adesanya might be joining that club as well soon. We'll see what happens with his female breast that he is growing on himself. But still, Jon Jones, in my opinion, is the number 1 threat to Israel Adesanya. Dangerous as can be, the size of him is alarming. And the size of him next to Adesanya would be alarming for Adesanya. This is a very close fight on the feet. And if Jon Jones goes out there and tries to strike with Israel Adesanya, there's going to be a bit of a problem. But if Jon Jones goes out there and grabs Adesanya's hips and drags him to the ground and smashes his head in, that's going to happen. Okay? If Jon Jones wants to do that, he wants to grab a hold of Israel Adesanya in a body lock, take him for a flip, take him down, smush him, put him in side control, put him in a crucifix, and elbow his face into oblivion, that can happen. And it can happen very easily. Okay, and if Jon Jones wants to put him in side control, grab his arm and make it a Kimura and rip that arm off, that can very easily happen. The only way I think that Adesanya has a chance against Jones would be on the feet. It's still a close fight. I'm not giving a prediction or anything here, but I think Jon Jones is the big old threat for Adesanya if he comes in looking to grapple early, because he could really easily do that. And I know that Dominic Reyes stuffed Jon Jones is grappling, but Israel Adesanya is not the same sized man as Dominic Reyes, and I think if he actually moved up to light heavyweight period, he'd be at a disadvantage, as I said earlier in the video, because I just don't think he'd carry the same attributes. The one thing that makes Adesanya good is his speed, his accuracy, and his light and footwork. That's all that makes him good. He's good on the feet, he's got good footwork, he's got good speed. You move up 20 pounds, you lose a bit of speed and you lose a bit of footwork, and you become a little bit more sluggish, and you're facing bigger guys with bigger shots. I like their chances. Jon Jones is the number 1 threat. Jack Hermansson sits at number 2. Jan Blachowicz at number 3. Yoel Romero at number 4. Alexander Rakic at number 5. The winner of Whittaker versus Cannonier might subtract out Rakic and put themselves at number 5. That's an honourable mention, because I still feel like they're a threat to Adesanya. The winner of Whittaker Cannonier is. But nowhere on my list is Chris Weidman or Tyron Woodley, because I'm not an idiot. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Goodbye. Toodle pip.